is Marcus Thorne. I'm 65 now, and I've spent the last 4 decades working as a senior accountant, a life defined by order, predictability, and balanced columns of numbers. Most people look at my life and think I've got it figured out. A decent job before retirement, a modest house, reliable income, solid, respectable, the kind of life built on steady work and careful planning. What they don't know is that 18 months ago, my world fractured. It wasn't the kind of change you'd pray for, though it answered every prayer I'd ever been too sensible to whisper. Instead, it became the most painful education I ever received about the people I thought I knew best, my own family. It was a Tuesday in March when it happened, a regular day in Phoenix, warm but not yet blazing. I was on my lunch break, walking to the sandwich shop, when I stopped at the convenience store. I'd never been a gambler. My parents raised me to see lottery tickets as an attack on people who are good at math. But something about that day felt different. Maybe it was the sunlight hitting the lottery display, or maybe it was just the sheer exhaustion of another tax season. I was desperate for any kind of escape from the endless calculations that define my professional life. "1 Powerball ticket," I told the clerk. "Quick pick is fine." She handed it to me with the mechanical efficiency of someone who sold 1,000 dreams destined for disappointment. I folded it into my wallet without looking at the numbers. It wasn't about the numbers, really. It was about the possibility, however remote, that life might be different from the careful, predictable path I'd been on since college. I forgot about the ticket for 3 days. When I finally remembered to check the numbers on Friday evening, I was sitting alone in my living room with a beer and a frozen dinner. The winning numbers flashed on the screen during a commercial break. 12, 28, 35, 47, 52. Powerball 19. I looked at my ticket. I looked at the screen. I looked at the ticket again. For about 30 seconds, I was convinced I was misreading something. This kind of thing doesn't happen to sensible men like me. We balance budgets and maximize retirement contributions. We don't win $57 million jackpots, but the numbers matched. I had won $57 million. My first instinct was to call someone, to share the news, to make this impossible thing feel real by involving my children. I picked up my phone and started to dial my son's number, then stopped. What would I say? How do you announce something like this without sounding like you've lost your mind? I spent the entire weekend researching lottery winners. I learned about taxes, investment strategies, and the surprisingly high percentage of people who end up bankrupt within a few years. Most importantly, I learned about family, about relatives who emerge from the woodwork, about arguments over who deserved what portion of the winnings, and about relationships that collapse under the pressure of sudden immense wealth. The stories were remarkably consistent. Greed turning children into ATM abusers, and trust turning into suspicion. By Monday morning, I had made a decision that would define the next 18 months of my life. I was not going to tell anyone, not yet. I claimed the prize through a trust, following the advice of a new lawyer and a financial advisor. After taxes, I had $34 million, generating enough income to live any life I chose, but I kept my quiet, respectable apartment. I kept driving my old Honda Civic. I kept going to work every day, analyzing spreadsheets and pretending that nothing had changed. The only difference was the secret, a secret that grew heavier every day. Living with that secret was isolating. Every conversation with my children and their spouses became a performance. When my son complained about the stress of his mortgage, I nodded sympathetically, all the while calculating that I could pay off his entire debt with what my investments earned in 3 days. When my daughter worried about her children's college fund, I offered generic advice about savings bonds, knowing I could fund a decade of tuition without affecting my own security. The secret gave me a chilling perspective. For the first time, I was able to observe how people treated me when they believed I had nothing to offer them beyond my company. It was an interesting experiment in human nature, but not always a comfortable one. After 6 months of this double life, I knew I needed to make a decision. But before changing everything, I wanted to understand something crucial about the people I was considering sharing my fortune with. I wanted to know, deep down, who would help me if I really needed it. The test I designed was simple. I would call each member of my immediate family and explain that I was facing a financial crisis. I would tell them I'd lost my job, fallen behind on rent, and needed help to avoid eviction. I would ask for a specific amount, not a massive sum, but enough to represent a real sacrifice for them. The goal wasn't to trick them. It was to understand their character in a way that normal circumstances never allow. When someone you care about is in genuine need, your response speaks volumes about your values. I wanted to know, before I changed our family dynamic forever with millions of dollars, who I could truly count on when the chips were down. I started with my parents. No, my parents are gone now. I started with my son, Thomas. "Thomas, I need to talk to you about something serious," I said when he answered the phone that Saturday morning. "I'm in real trouble here." "What kind of trouble, Dad?" I heard the immediate, though slightly distant concern in his voice. "My son, Thomas. I told him I'd had a major health scare that led to the loss of my contract work, and now my landlord was threatening eviction. I was 65, and suddenly I needed help." I could hear Sophia, Thomas's wife, asking questions in the background, but Thomas handled the response, his tone already becoming guarded. "Dad, that's terrible news. We wish you had called sooner, but you know our situation. The kids' expenses and our massive mortgage are crippling us. I don't see how we can help you financially right now. Son, I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for family help. $3,000 would cover my rent and utilities until I can find something else. I'm desperate here." There was a pause, longer this time. Then Thomas returned with the words that hit me like a physical blow. "Dad, I understand you're scared, but you're 65. You should have planned for something like this. Maybe this is a difficult but necessary moment for you to learn to manage your own crises instead of looking for someone else to solve your problems." He saw my plea for help, not as evidence of unfortunate circumstances, but as a failure of my character. I hung up the phone and sat there, the air heavy with what I had just learned. I called my daughter Victoria the next day. She was the picture of success, living in a beautiful estate with her husband David. "Dad, what is it? I'm rushing out to soccer practice." I explained the situation, lost income, eviction looming, and asked for the same $3,000. "Dad, $3,000 is a massive sum. That's almost a month of payments on the kids' private school tuition. David and I have our own bills to worry about, she said quickly. Then she added the sting. Would you, though? You've always been so quiet and independent. You never ask for help, never seem to need anyone. And now, suddenly, you want us to bail you out? We trusted you had everything sorted out. Maybe this is a wake-up call, Dad. Maybe you need to get serious about your retirement planning instead of relying on others. Relying on others. I was an invisible man until I needed money, and then I was suddenly a burden. Both of my successful children, with their abundant lives, couldn't spare a fraction of what I had hidden away in my trust fund. But I still had one more call to make. My youngest, Liam, was 32. He never went to college, working as a foreman at a construction site in Flagstaff. He was the kind of son who would give you his last $20. Liam, I need to talk to you. I'm in serious financial trouble. Dad, that just sucks. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. $3,000, you said. I know it's a lot and you're my last option. Your brother and sister couldn't help. Okay, listen, he said after a long silence. I don't have $3,000, not even close, but I have about $800 in my savings, and I can probably get another $700 from my line of credit without completely crippling myself. That's $1,500 total. It's not what you need, but I could drive down tomorrow with the cash and help you look for a cheaper apartment. My youngest son, who lived paycheck to paycheck managing a crew, was offering to give me more than half of his available cash and drive 4 hours to help his father. My 2 successful, wealthy children couldn't spare a fraction of that amount, but Liam was ready to max out his line of credit. Dad, you're my father. If you're really facing eviction, then we figure it out together. That's what family does. That's what family does. According to my successful children, family teaches tough love and independence. According to Liam, family helps each other through emergencies without calculating the cost or judging character. The test had revealed a hard, cold truth I'd never wanted to know. When push came to shove, only one of them loved me enough to put my welfare ahead of their own financial security. 3 months later, in January, I called Thomas and Victoria to announce that I was moving to a new city, a change of scenery from my so-called early retirement. I told them I was going to focus on consulting in Boulder, Colorado, a place with a lower cost of living. They didn't question it. They just offered superficial well wishes. I didn't mention I was buying a beautiful house, or that Liam would be moving with me. The conversation with Liam had happened a few weeks after the call. 3-4 million, he had said, setting down his mug of coffee. Dad, you've been sitting on this for 8 months? I told him about the test, about his brother and sister's responses, and about his immediate, unconditional willingness to sacrifice his security for me. Thomas and Victoria, what about them? This changes everything. They made it clear they believe I should handle my own problems, Liam. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. But you were willing to give me everything you had. I want you as my partner. The business idea had been developing for months, a combination investment firm and charitable foundation focused on helping seniors and working-class families achieve the stability my own children denied me. We'd call it Thorne and Sons Legacy. Liam would run the day-to-day operations. It was a chance for him to build something meaningful, honoring his natural inclination to help people who were struggling. We start with a $5 million investment, Liam. Let's see how much good we can do. As far as the rest of the family was concerned, I'd simply moved for a change of pace, and Liam had decided to join me for a new construction opportunity. Within 18 months, Liam was earning more money than he had ever dreamed of making. Meanwhile, my relationship with Thomas and Victoria continued much as it had before, polite but superficial. They never asked about my financial situation, and I never volunteered information about how well our new firm was doing. I knew that if I solved their financial problems now, it would change our relationship forever. They would always wonder if I was helping them out of love or out of guilt, and I would always know the truth behind their suddenly generous smiles. The anonymous gifts were scaled back, and the refocus began, growing our business and building wealth that could be sustainably shared with people who were genuinely working to improve their own situations. Instead of solving problems for people, Liam and I started teaching them how to solve problems for themselves. The business continued to thrive. By our third year, Thorne & Sons' legacy had helped more than 1,000 families improve their financial situations, and we had expanded into 3 additional cities. Liam had become one of the most respected financial advisors in Boulder, known for his ability to connect with clients who had been overlooked by traditional firms. I had achieved something that my lottery ticket had never guaranteed. I had built a meaningful life that reflected my true values. I was using my wealth to make a positive impact while maintaining honest relationships with the one person I cared about who had proven worthy of that trust. But I still had not told Thomas or Victoria the truth about the winnings. The secret had become a fundamental part of my identity. It gave me the freedom to be myself without worrying about how their perceptions of me might change if they knew about my wealth. Most importantly, it allowed me to continue testing their character without them knowing they were being tested. That final test came 4 years after I had moved to Boulder, when my daughter Victoria called to ask for help with her eldest daughter's college expenses. "Dad, I need to ask you for a favor, and I want you to know how difficult this is for me." The conversation felt like a replay of the past, only this time the stakes were higher. "Emma got accepted to Stanford," Victoria continued. "It's her dream school, and she worked so hard to get in. But even with financial aid, we are looking at almost $30,000 a year in out-of-pocket expenses. David and I have saved what we could, but it's not enough. $30,000 a year. Over 4 years, that was $120,000, a tiny fraction of what my investments generated every month. That is a lot of money, Victoria. What are you thinking in terms of what you need from me? I know you're doing well with your consulting now, Dad, and I was hoping maybe you could help us with some of Emma's expenses. Not all of it, just whatever you can afford. Even $10,000 would make a huge difference. $10,000. Just enough to show that I cared about my granddaughter's education, but not enough to make a significant impact on the overall problem. It was exactly the kind of partial solution that would let my daughter feel she had done everything possible, while still requiring her to find the remaining $110,000 elsewhere. Victoria, you know I want Emma to be able to go to Stanford. Let me think about this and get back to you. Thank you, Dad. I know this is a lot to ask, but family is family, right? Family is family. The same daughter who had told me that adults handle their own problems when I supposedly faced eviction was now invoking family obligation to ask for financial assistance for her daughter's education. I hung up the phone and realized that I had learned everything I needed to know about my family's values and priorities. When they needed help, they expected family members to sacrifice for each other. When I supposedly needed help, they expected me to learn independence through struggle. The experiment was over. The double standard was so clear, I wondered how I had missed it for so many years. I called Liam to discuss Victoria's request. "So what are you going to do?" Liam asked. "I'm going to help Emma go to Stanford, but I'm not going to do it the way Victoria expects. It'll be another anonymous donor, something like that. But this time, I wanted Victoria to understand that financial help comes from people who care about education and opportunity, not from family members who are simply expected to solve each other's problems." The scholarship I established through Thorne & Sons Legacy was specifically designed for students from middle-class families who had been accepted to prestigious universities but couldn't afford the full cost. Emma was one of our first recipients, receiving a 4-year scholarship that covered her entire tuition and living expenses. When Victoria called to tell me about Emma's scholarship, she sounded amazed, but also slightly confused. "Someone created a scholarship program specifically for kids like Emma," she said. "It's like they knew exactly what our situation was. It makes you wonder if there is some kind of guardian angel looking out for our family." A guardian angel, if only she knew. "Maybe you're just a family that deserves good things," I replied. "Maybe. Or maybe we know someone who has more resources than they let on." Her comment made me nervous, but I forced myself to respond casually. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe someone in our extended family or friend group has done well for themselves and is finding ways to help us without making a big deal about it. It would explain why these gifts seem so perfectly timed and specific to our needs." Victoria was more perceptive than I had given her credit for, but perception without proof is just speculation. "That would be nice to think," I said, "but sometimes good things happen to good people without any special explanation." My relationship with Victoria improved significantly after Emma started at Stanford. She seemed less stressed and more interested in maintaining connections. But I also noticed that she never directly thanked me for offering to help with the college expenses. Even after the scholarship had solved the problem, she never acknowledged that I had been willing to contribute $10,000. It was as if my offer had never been made, or as if she had never expected it to be serious. That realization helped me understand something crucial. They did not view me as someone who had the resources to solve major financial challenges. They were receiving anonymous gifts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from the same father they didn't believe could afford to help them with a $3,000 emergency. The irony was so absurd, I started to find it amusing rather than painful. 5 years after moving to Boulder, I made a decision that surprised even Liam. I decided to tell my family the truth about the lottery winnings, not for gratitude, but because I wanted to see how they would respond to learning that all of their financial problems could have been solved instantly by the person they had dismissed as unable to help. I wanted to see if they would finally understand the lesson I had been trying to teach them about family loyalty. The conversation took place during Thanksgiving dinner at my house. For the first time in years, everyone had accepted the invitation. It was Liam who suggested the timing. "They're all here, Dad. Everyone is in a good mood, and I think they might learn something important about how they've been treating you all these years." We waited until after dinner. "I have something to tell you all," I said, standing up from the dining room table. "Something I have been keeping to myself for a long time." The room went completely quiet. 5 years ago, right before I moved to Boulder, I won the lottery, $57 million. The silence that followed was complete. Thomas looked confused. Victoria looked shocked, then angry. "You won the lottery?" Thomas finally managed. "I won the lottery, and I have been living off the investment income ever since. The business Liam and I run is funded entirely by my lottery winnings. The house we are sitting in, I bought it with cash. Everything you think you know about my financial situation has been a carefully maintained fiction." "How much did you say?" Thomas asked. $57 million before taxes, about $42 million currently, due to investment growth. Victoria found her voice first. "Are you telling me that you've had $42 million this whole time, and you let us struggle with money? You let Emma almost miss out on Stanford?" "Actually, I didn't let anyone miss out on anything. You got the help you needed, but you made us think we had to figure it out on our own. The same way you made me think I had to figure things out on my own when I supposedly lost my job and needed help with rent." The implications sank in. "Wait," Victoria said slowly. "Are you saying that was a test?" "I'm saying that before I decided how to use my lottery winnings, I wanted to understand what kind of family I was part of. I wanted to know who would help me if I really needed it." I looked around the table at their faces, seeing a mixture of anger and deep embarrassment, and I learned that only one person in this family was willing to sacrifice their own financial security to help a family member in need. Liam shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Dad," Thomas said quietly, "we didn't know you were really in trouble. We thought you were just going through a rough patch." "A rough patch? That included facing eviction? You thought I was being dramatic. I cannot believe you have been lying to us for 5 years, Victoria snapped. "I have not been lying to you. I have been protecting myself from people who demonstrated that they don't actually care about my welfare unless it is convenient for them. What is not fair is asking your father to contribute $10,000 to your daughter's education, while believing that same father could not afford to help you with $3,000 when he was supposedly facing eviction." The conversation continued, but the dynamic never changed. They could not acknowledge that they had failed their own test. They continued to rationalize their previous responses while expressing hurt and anger that I had tested them in the first place. The next morning, as everyone was preparing to leave, Thomas pulled me aside for a private conversation. "Dad, I want you to know that I am proud of what you have accomplished with your business, but I also want you to understand that what you did, testing us like that, it was not fair. We are your family. We should not have to prove our love to you." "You are right, Dad. You should not have to prove your love to me. It should be obvious in how you treat me when I need help. We have always been here for you." "Have you? Because when I supposedly needed help the most, You told me I needed to learn independence through suffering. When Liam offered to help me, you told him that was what family does. Which one is your actual position on family obligations? He didn't have a good answer for that question. As my family packed their cars and prepared for the drive back to Arizona, I realized I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because the conversation had gone well, it hadn't, but because I no longer had to carry the weight of a secret that had defined my life for half a decade. I also no longer had to wonder about my family's character or values. I knew exactly what they believed about mutual support and family loyalty, and I could make decisions about my relationships based on that knowledge, rather than on hope or assumption. 6 months after that Thanksgiving dinner, Liam and I moved Thorne & Sons Legacy to a larger facility and hired 12 additional employees. We had proven that ethical financial services could be both profitable and socially beneficial, and we were ready to expand our impact. We also established a larger charitable foundation that makes anonymous gifts to families facing financial emergencies, with special attention to situations where family members have failed to support each other. It's satisfying work, and it allows me to use my wealth in ways that reflect the values I learned from watching my own family navigate crisis. My children, Thomas and Victoria, and I still maintain contact, but our relationships have never fully recovered from the truth about my lottery winnings and the test I conducted. They seem to view me differently now, not as someone who achieved unexpected success, but as someone who deceived them and judged them according to standards they didn't know they were being measured against. They are not entirely wrong. I did deceive them, and I did judge them. But I also learned something valuable about the difference between the family you are born into and the family you choose to build. Liam and I have built something together that neither of us could have achieved alone. We have created wealth that serves a purpose beyond our own comfort, relationships based on mutual respect and shared values, and a business that makes our community stronger. Most importantly, we have demonstrated to ourselves and each other that when someone you care about needs help, you find a way to provide it. You do not calculate the cost or question whether they deserve assistance. You do not lecture them about independence or suggest that struggling will build character. You help them because that is what family does. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Before you go, I have left 2 more stories here on your screen, both from men who discovered that family is not always who you were born to. It is who stands by you when the truth comes out. Click on whichever one calls to you, and if you want to join our community of people who understand what it's like to be the outsider looking in, that notification bell is your invitation. Until tomorrow, remember your story matters, even if they tried to erase it.